Welcome to Lit Happens Prince Albert. I'm Kara Stelmaschik. Thank you very much for tuning in. Joining me now is Miriam Korner. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go back and let's talk about you first before we get to all these great books. Came from Germany. So where did you come from in Germany? Tell us about you.
Oh, do you want the long version or the short version?
Long version. Authors always tell a really good long version. So yeah.
Well, I lived last in Bremen in Germany, and when I left university, I wanted to travel around the world. So I basically just packed up with my backpack, and then I came via the Trans-Siberian Railway, slowly made my way towards Canada. Wow. And winter was nearing, so I was looking for a place to stay. And I applied to people that had sled dogs and tried to work for them so I could stay with them. And actually I wanted to go to Yukon and Alaska, where every German person wants to go.
I didn't know that.
Somebody forwarded that email to somebody in Saskatchewan and said, you're looking for a dog handler, why don't you try out this young lady? And I said, well, I don't know Saskatchewan, might as well go there. Yeah.
Wow.
And, I actually got to train sled dogs, and I took the dogs to race up to La Ronge. And during that race, I lost my dog team on Big Stone Lake. Oh. And Masha gave me a ride to the highway, and somebody was waiting there taking pictures of all the teams coming out. And I said, I need somebody with a snow machine, can you help me? And that person happens to be my husband now. He went to get his skidoo.
Oh, wow.
We drove out back to Big Stone Lake. He rescued my dogs and me.
Oh, good. I was so worried about the dogs.
Yeah.
Well, that's really, really cool. So you've done a lot of, I guess, outdoor adventuring is the best way to do it. Tell us a little bit about what some of your passions are for the outdoors.
Yeah, so the outdoors is what brought me to Canada. And after training those sled dogs, I kind of fell in love, not just with my husband, but also with some of the sled dogs. Nice. And I asked the owner to buy 2 of them, which we did. And we soon collected more and more dogs, mainly rejects from racing teams that didn't quite make the cut.
Oh, okay.
And I wasn't really too interested in racing, but I was totally fascinated by the Canadian wilderness. So we went out on all the old trapline trails and fair trade routes by the dogs just in our area, but eventually we kept venturing further and further north, and we've been to the Northwest Territories with our dogs and Nunavut, and cool. Yeah, we've been up to 20 days out camping in the bush with the dogs in the winter.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
Wow. Definitely qualifies as an outdoor adventurer. So would you say you find that particular activity inspiring then?
Oh, for sure. Like, being out in the bush is always inspiring, and with the dogs it's a really beautiful way to travel because first of all they pull all your gear, you don't have to carry anything. But they're also always good company, like they always keep your mood up when you get down or cold. You always look at your dogs and you have to take care of them, and in a roundabout way they take care of you, like they look out for you. They warm your armpits, your fingers under your armpits if you need to. and they're just always just such a happy animal wherever you go. So, okay. For sure.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to talk about Yellow Dog then, because it kind of, I guess we kind of segued right into that one with all the stories. So tell us about Yellow Dog and the story of that particular book.
Okay, so this book is about a young boy growing up in northern Saskatchewan. It's a fictive community of Poplar Point, but people that know the La Ronge area will find bits and pieces of places that sound very familiar to them. And Jeremy in this book is being pressured into pulling a dog's tail and feeling guilty about what he's done. He tries to make amends and keeps going back to visit the yellow dog, and he meets the owner of the dog. And the owner of the dog is an old man who grew up on a trap line and had a dog team when he was young. So Jeremy is fascinated by the stories the old man tells him, and soon he tries to gather dogs to form his own dog team. And that's, I think, as much as I want to tell.
Yeah, don't give everything away.
Stories, but I don't want to give.
That's really cool. So would you say this is the kind of book that you like to read either when you were growing up or even now?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's always a connection to the outdoors and to the animal world, that adventure part of it. But it's also a coming of age story. So there's a lot happening for Jeremy as he becomes aware of his world around him. So it's the psychological part, but also the adventure part that I find fascinating. And living in the North, there's not many books with settings that kids can identify with, and we used to have a dog sledding business for about 10 years, so we had people always come out to us. And we also had a program with troubled kids, a kind of a buddy program. They would have a sled dog and come to our house and look after them, and by the end of the program they would take their buddy dogs out on a little sled dog ride around our lake.
Nice.
So when I realized there wasn't anything really that tells their story or that they can identify with, I think I started thinking about my own story. And then there was also, when we're going out with the sled dogs on the old trapline trails, we meet lots of people. Nobody has sled dogs anymore. There's a working animal, but they all still remember of having had dogs. So they tell us all these little bits of stories and snippets of it. And eventually all these came together in Yellow Dog, my experience with working with young children, and the redemptive power sled dog had, as well as all the stories that elders told us along on the trail. So
great. It sounds like a great book, and it must be, because it's been shortlisted for Saskatchewan. It was shortlisted for Saskatchewan Book Awards this year, and also another award in Manitoba. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, that's the Manitoba Young Readers' Choice Award, and that's really exciting because the young readers themselves can read. There's a title list of 18 books that have been chosen, and anybody who's read 3 or more books can nominate for the book for the winning piece. So it's really exciting because this brings the books out to my young readers.
For sure. And
actually it is been out there, like L'Orange has picked it up right away. It's been read in the high schools, and they invited me to come in to do an author talk there. So it's really nice to connect with my audience and hear what they have to say, and even boys that don't usually read have read it.
There's something in this one, hey, that they really gets to them. That's very cool.
Really exciting, yeah.
So I guess a lot of that experience then also goes into your children's books, and you have 2 of those as well.
Yeah. The first one was my first book I ever made. Was a commission actually by the Saskatchewan African Canadian Heritage Museum.
Okay.
So I worked with a young author together there on a story. But this one here is more to my heart, closer to my heart, and that came together by visiting Bernice Johnson-Laxdal, who's a local Cree teacher in L'Orange, and we started talking about the Cree moons and the Cree seasons, and that's always something that I found fascinating, how people traditionally have connected with the nature, but also how all the activities was related by whatever season it was. Like, I mean, you go berry picking in August, or you go hunting in September, so all these things, what you do are kind of dictated by the seasonal cycle. We started talking about that, and I found out she's my neighbor, kind of down the road a little ways. So we started going for walks, and she kept telling me more stories about that, and then eventually we decided, why don't we make a book? And so this book is inspired by her memories of growing up in Ala-la-Crosse, which is the second oldest community in Saskatchewan.
Right.
And the seasonal cycle and the traditional Cree moon calendar. So, yeah.
Very nice. And you also did the illustrations on this book.
Yes.
All right. So is that something you also got into back in Germany, or was that more of a later thing?
I think that's both writing and illustrating, I think, is something I wanted to do since kindergarten.
Nice.
I remember that I was copying a picture book, and I copied all the words and all the paintings, and I couldn't read at the time, so whenever I ended writing a word, I just kept turning the page and keep writing my letters.
Oh, okay. Well, that's neat.
Yeah, I think. And then I think I always wanted to study art, but people always said, you're never going to make money with that, and it's never going to be, you need to grow up, do something reasonable. And eventually, I think maybe about 10 or so years ago, I realized that's still what I wanted to do, and I would always, at McNally Robertson, I always ended up in the children's book section, looking at all the picture books and all, and eventually I thought, well, maybe I should just try, and yeah, so.
Neat. Very cool. So would you like to read us just a little bit of this? Because I know you said February is your favorite month in this book. So,
Sure.
so this book is in both English and Cree.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got just a few Cree words in it. And it's really neat to hear Bernice actually reading it. We went all over the schools in northern Saskatchewan, the Y-speaking communities, because this is in the Y dialect, and she would tell a story to every picture. So it was really neat, but unfortunately she couldn't be here, so I have to do it myself. January. Oh no, this was January. I was going to tell you about this.
You can do both. I don't mind.
I'll do February.
Sure.
So February. Migis Soipism. Eagle moon. When the eagle returns to the river bank and Dad comes home to sell his fur, we catch a ride. Niposinan on his toboggan. So it's just a little bit of a Cree words in there, and then there's the picture here.
Favorite illustration by the illustrator right there. Very nice.
And when Bernice tells the story, she had 14 siblings. No, sorry, she had 40. There were 14 altogether. But when her dad would come home and they see him, they would always run on the ice, and they would try to jump on his toboggan and catch a ride with him as he was coming by. So that's kind of the illustration. And I kind of, even though I never experienced what Bernice experienced, when we go with our dogs and end up in a northern community, the kids always come running as well, and they will always catch a ride on our toboggans. So I kind of could relate a little bit to it, even though I never been in Isle Lacrosse in the 1960s.
And what's coming up next? Do you have any plans for more books in the future?
Yeah, too many plans, not enough time. I'm halfway through my next novel. It's set in Churchill, Manitoba. It's going to be set in Churchill, Manitoba and Aviat, Nunavut. We spent quite a few winters along the coast of Hudson Bay in a sled dog race, in a 250-mile sled dog race. Ooh. And I met very fascinating Inuit elders that would come with a traditional gear. So that really inspired me to put myself out in that place. And I'm thinking about another picture book about what actually life was like on a trap line. So it's a little bit of the stories in Yellow Dog, but this time as a children's book, as a picture book. With an elder from La Ronge had experience of having growing up there. And yeah, I think after that I have a couple more novels in my head, and then people are always asking me to write my own story down of how did I end being up here in Canada. That's kind of on the back burner, but maybe one day that will be.
Absolutely, that would be very fascinating, absolutely. So let's get to where people can find these books, because I think, especially this one right here, there are probably a lot of people out there who know somebody who would really, really enjoy that particular read. So where can we find Yellow Dog?
So yeah, you can buy it online. Go to your local bookstore. Coles has some here right in Prince Albert. And you can buy it on Amazon anywhere you want.
Okay.
And this one as well. Or you can order directly through the publisher. It's Hugh Nicholsworth Publishing in Regina.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, and congratulations on the awards. That's absolutely fantastic. I know you also have a kind of an adventure blog, so that's another outlet for writing. So maybe people would like to check out your blog. What's the website for that?
I have it's called Miriam Korner, MIRIAMKOERNER, at blogspot.com. I don't post too much updates there.
But there's some writing there, so no, that's really good.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations on the books. They're absolutely beautiful. So I love the illustrations in this one. Okay. Thank you again. And thank you very much for tuning in. If you'd like to see more of Lit Happens Prince Albert, you can always go to shawtv.ca.